live on Twitch. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of my ladies, gadies, and gentlemen out there. Oh man, we are going to be watching the presidential debate tonight, and I am so excited, dude.
Former President Trump, they expect
I heard
him to, at some point, maybe
that
lose it. They're going to try to bait him a bit to try to lash out at her.
the
She
Biden
really wants to
admin has
remain calm
been, or
because
the
her
Harris
biggest thing that she
campaign
wants
has
to do
been
is
using the
really
exact same
introduce
people who
herself
prepped
to
Biden for his last
undecided
debate.
voters and voters who
Do you
might
know
not
this
be
shit's gonna be
familiar
like
with her background, her middle-class
absolutely
background, that she's a child
disastrous?
of immigrants. They really want to, her team, really make sure that she defines herself. So that's also a big challenge that I'll be watching for, how she does that. Back to you.
All right, Yamiche, thank you so much. And let's turn now to NBC's Dasha Burns, who covers the Trump campaign and joins us now. What are you hearing from the Trump campaign about the preparations tonight?
Well, look, Savannah, you've heard the former president say time and again that he does not do traditional debate prep, that campaigning is his prep. But we are told by sources that over the last few days, he has been hunkered down at Mar-a-Lago. He's been doing extensive policy sessions. And watch for him to do two things tonight, two things that his campaign wants him to do. Number one, tie Vice President Harris to President Biden. Make her own what's going on with the economy, what's going on with immigration. And number two, remind voters some of the positions she took back in 2020.
Ty, welcome to the chat, my friend.
Left of center.
Are you excited for debate night?
Liberal for those moderate swing voters in places like the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Oh, man.
Of course, that is the plan. That is what the campaign wants. But it's all going to be about the execution.
It's a bit quiet, but hell yeah.
Moment,
oh yeah.
Especially if Harris tries to bait the
that.
former president into an outburst. Savannah.
All right, Dasha, thank you.
Let's bring back Kristen Walker and Hallie Jackson. I want to talk about how the vice president has cast herself in this.
It's so much easier to manage this stuff when you don't have to worry about,
going against Donald Trump.
You don't have to worry about
are there limits to that in this
shift
format? Do you think of coming off in a prosecutorial way?
Absolutely. When I've spoken to allies who are close to her, they say her biggest challenge tonight is getting specific, but not too specific. She's got to tell the story of how a Harris administration would differ from a Biden administration. That word we keep using, change. How would she change things right now? Does she acknowledge to some extent that the economy is not where she wants it to be? And really, in more detail, what she wants to see. Yes, she's going to prosecute Donald Trump on a range of different issues. She'll accuse him of switching his opinion, particularly when it comes to the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. But again, she's got to walk that fine line.
Yeah, but she also has to answer for some changes in her own positions. Of course, she ran for president in 2020. She came across and positioned herself as a much more
there's probably good. I don't know. I'll be adjusting it up and down throughout
really
the debate.
To the middle here in a general election.
Crowded primary right back in
Here we are,
2019,
fucked up trying to live, and then we're just
fuck Biden. For example,
dude, honestly, I think it would be so funny if this debate just makes Trump look like a senile old man, and then he has to drop out. But like, it's too late. I think that would just be so funny. Dude, gonna turn it down whenever Trump talks. I actually want to hear what Donald Trump has to say, mainly because like I think it should be corrected, right? Like I don't think it's helpful to just be like la 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 la, ignore Donald Trump. I think that's a very 2016 attitude about the guy that actually low-key I think helped him win. First second of the time Biden is here, he's dropping to the floor. Biden's not debating this time, Ty.
Okay.
Now it's Kamala.
Be back with you. It's the top of the hour now, 9 o'clock on the East Coast here in New York and in Philadelphia.
It's going to be Harris versus Trump.
We're just seconds away now from tonight's first and perhaps last.
Although that won't stop Biden from dropping to the floor.
And former President Donald Trump.
As we've noted, this will be the
first shows up to support
in person, and it's happening on a debate stage.
Kamala Biden tomato. Honestly, that is kind of fair.
Over the summer, and Harris
became
the Democratic nominee. A lot has happened in a very compressed period of time.
Yes, it has, and we have a few
policy
moments
page
until the debate starts.
really did not do a lot to help her separate herself from Biden.
Right here in its entirety.
I should not be scrolling Twitter right now. I feel like this is very risky. Anytime I'm on Twitter, while I'm on
debate, there will be
like,
no
this
audience
is
tonight.
dangerous.
The candidates' microphones.
Comrade Kamala is a fake AI, bro. She's fake. I walked into this debate and I said she's a hologram. It's true. She's fake news.
Rather early in this as they stake out their positions and get a sense of where all this is going.
And the mics are muted when the other is talking. So let's take you to Philadelphia now.
Oh, they're doing muted mics. That sucks.
Presidential debate of 2024.
Good evening. I'm David Muir. Thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates
she is better than
who have
Trump.
never
Ty,
met.
the reason your
President
taxes
Trump
are
won
higher
the
because
coin
of Donald
toss. He
Trump.
chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice
And
President
there
Harris
is a
selected
criticism
the
to be
podium to the right.
levied against the
So let's
Biden
now
administration
welcome
for
the
not doing
candidates to
anything
the
about
stage.
that.
Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Yeah, and the tax cuts from Donald Trump are scheduled per Donald Trump's own order to expire next year.
Thank you.
Oh, damn.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started.
Excited.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue.
How long
and
do you
that
think
is the
until-
economy and the cost of living
they
in this
shaking?
country. Vice
How long
President
until he
Harris,
loses
you and
his-
President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually, my mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start-up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
Honestly, that's not
my
that
opponent,
bad.
on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
No, that's true. When he talks about how he's lowering, when he wants to lower the tax rate, that means that it can only go up through sales tax. Otherwise, you do get a deficit. Kamala did a very good job at attacking him indirectly there,
substantial in some,
by pointing out that tax cuts increase the deficit, because that's our government's income.
In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. we were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions, asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics.
But I do also agree, I don't think Donald Trump knows that asylum seekers are not insane asylum, like people fleeing insane asylums.
In Colorado.
Oh my God.
They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings.
Okay, the Aurora, I have to say this, the Aurora story is made up. It is fake. He is lying. He knows he's lying. It has been widely debunked.
They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast.
Forget.
I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border
It'll go
security
down
during
for
this
sure,
debate,
gas
but
always goes up
I would like to let
Democrat,
Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
But,
well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us.
Nobody was driving.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
This is about tax.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight
She's looking good tonight.
is a detailed and dangerous plan called
and he's
Project
not looking sweaty like he
2025
has.
that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025.
That is another
That's
lie.
out there. I haven't read it. I don't
what
want
is
to
it,
read
80% of the Heritage Foundation?
This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad.
80% of the Heritage Foundation's appointees worked directly in his cabinet, not just with his cabinet. They were his cabinet
create
members.
a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was
which he
not
failed to
since
control.
1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was
someone who was in
before the
healthcare,
pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Anybody who believes that Donald Trump handled that pandemic well is not living in reality. As somebody who was working in healthcare at the time, the shortage of equipment the shortage of equipment alone killed like easily tens of thousands of people. The fact that like he can sit there and so bold-faced claim that he handled that pandemic well is horrific.
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you
with the steel
because
chair.
he's more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she
this is the problem with relying on like institutional think tanks and academia like that,
run,
right?
spot,
the way
run.
that
4 sentences that are just we'll try
they're
and lower
composed
taxes.
of a variety of
people. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Trump can just turn around and be like, oh yeah, same group, different people. Oh, they like me more.
Your
And it's
tariffs,
like
you
just run in
responded, and let's
circles
drill
with it.
down on
It's
this
kinda
because
dumb.
your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports
Pyro,
across
you
the
nailed
board.
it.
You recently said
He
that
doesn't
you might double your
explain
plan,
policy. He
imposing
just says my
tariffs up to
policy's good, their
20% on
policy's
goods
bad.
coming into
And then
this
people
country.
think that that's
As you
him
know, many
talking about
economists
policy.
say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to
No,
have higher
tariffs,
prices
like,
is
always
China
lead to higher
and all of
prices.
the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China
Tariffs
was paying
affect
us
people.
hundreds of billions of dollars, and so
Tariffs
were
affect
other
the
countries.
consumer
And,
the
you
way
know,
people
she
think
doesn't
that
like them. They
income
should have gone
tax
out and they should have
or capital
immediately cut
gains
the
tax
tariffs,
affects
but
the
those tariffs are
consumer.
there 3.5
That is a
years
cost
now
that is
under
directly
their
handed off to
administration.
the consumer.
We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say
Bro, I
80
hope he
and
brings up
85 and
Jinxie
even
breaking up with his
90%
girlfriend, bro.
that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response.
Yeah,
You heard
no,
what the
Ty,
president
this
said
is
there,
exactly
because the
it,
Biden
right? This is
administration
why I
did
said
keep
I don't want them.
a number of the Trump tariffs in
Oh
place.
shit,
So
they're
how do you
fact
respond?
checking.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump
this is what I was saying,
administration
Ty. Is like I don't want them
resulted
to
in a trade
mute
deficit, one of
mics
the highest we've
because the
ever
more
seen in
Donald
the
Trump
history of
talks, the
America.
less people
He
actually like
invited
him.
trade wars.
Like,
you want to talk about
a
his
large portion-
deal with China? What he ended up doing is under
Oh, wait, this
Donald
is good,
Trump's
this is good.
presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China
Oh,
to help them
yes.
improve
Yes.
and modernize their military.
They also then turned around and,
Basically
like,
sold us
stole
out
half of our,
when a policy
chip
about China
copyright
should be
blueprints.
in making sure
what?
the United States of
Not
America
blueprints,
wins the
but,
competition for the
trademarks.
21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick
Dude.
in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi
Chips.
for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet.
He was talking
Thank
about
you,
chips.
President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all,
that was
they
a
bought their
strange-
chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of
Oh, that's just a flat out
philosophies
lie.
like
We
they
make
have and
a
policies
ton of
like
chips
they
now.
have. I don't see her
Anyway,
because she
what I
has
was saying
no
is like the
policy.
more Donald Trump talks, the
Everything
less people
that
like
she
him.
believed 3 years ago
Like,
and 4
a
years
genuine
ago is out
factor
the
in
window.
his,
She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was
2016
gonna send her a
victory is
MAGA
the
hat.
fact that, like,
She's
despite him
gone to my
constantly talking about how the
philosophy,
media was
if
biased
she ever
against
got
him,
elected, she'd
they
change
did
it.
not talk
And
about him
it
enough
will
or let
be
him
the
speak
end
enough.
of our country.
They just
She's a
regularly try to tell him to
Marxist.
shut
Everybody
up and go
knows
away.
she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in
I
economics.
remember, I think it
and
was
he
Cody
taught her well.
Johnston
But when you look at
pointed
what
out that
she's
there was
done
something
to our
like
country,
60
and when you look at these
stories
millions and millions of people that are
about
pouring into our
Donald
country
Trump's, like,
monthly,
3,000
where it's,
something
I believe,
civil
21
cases.
million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's
Meanwhile,
a lot
Hillary
higher
Clinton
than the
had, like,
21.
4,000
That's
written
bigger
about her
than New
one
York
Benghazi
State
case.
pouring in, and just look
Anyway,
at what
back
they're
to the
doing
debate.
to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know, you mentioned before. We'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad
I hate
immigration is the
this
worst
part.
thing that can happen to our economy.
And see, now,
They have.
if
and
it
she
was
has
any other administration,
destroyed
they could
our
turn around and
country
call him a
with
racist.
policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say They have to hate our country.
President Trump,
but
thank you. Lindsay?
Kamala can't be like, oh, he's a racist, xenophobic dickhead, portraying immigrants as like criminals, because the Biden administration does that too.
To be the most pro-life president in American history.
Yeah, Pyro, because he's a demagogue. So he's going to focus on immigrants, communists,
the whole state of Florida. You surprised many.
They're hitting him with reproductive rights.
Abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short.
Yeah, his whole point is that
I'm going to be voting that we need
has to regularly remind his voter base of how scary other people are, and like
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
Oh my God, that is not
because
true.
that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was
actually a wild time to be
in
an evangelical college,
because he is really
out
of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion.
That was really funny comment. I don't know if that was
okay.
intentional.
And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states.
Oh, is he going to own it?
And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions.
Man,
very important.
He's trying really hard to make it seem like it was not the worst fucking thing for him.
And for the first time,
you're going to see,
look, this is
He's like, no, guys, it's good. Trust me.
Apart for 52 years.
You're right, Thunder.
Every
he's
legal
been
scholar,
having a bit of
every
a
Democrat,
speech impediment
every
over the last few
liberal,
interviews and
conservative,
speeches
they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now.
Okay, this is actually interesting, because this is the first question he's been asked where he stayed on topic.
And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it.
And I think it's because he knows that he fucked up. Like,
there is no
this is an issue where it genuinely costs some voters.
After it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch
The
of
9th
lies,
trimester. Yeah, he's a moron.
Actually a surprising
Shocker.
fact.
He doesn't know how a baby is made.
Let's understand how we got here.
I'm going to sleep, wake me up.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans,
3
which make
Court
it
judges that just
criminal
lied on the
for
bench.
a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life.
Is kind of insane.
Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest.
Oh yeah, they're calling them Trump abortion bans.
A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is
abortion
immoral.
is just called murder,
and
dog.
One does not have to abandon their faith.
At that point, it is a baby. Like, it is a human.
To agree, the government,
unless it's like, you know, non-viable, in which case the only thing you can do is abort.
Body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers
he's trying so hard not to look at her, dude.
And she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor
dying inside
of
the mother
incest,
is one of the worst.
being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They
it can
don't want
be,
that.
even if you can still give birth to
And
it,
I pledge
which
to
is
you,
not guaranteed because they
when
can't
Congress
reconstitute,
passes a bill to put back in place the protections
still,
of Roe
can
v.
cause,
Wade, as
like,
President
what's
of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand,
Trump wouldn't abort
if Donald Trump were
xenomorph.
to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban.
Hey,
there's
hey!
no reason to sign
Silence
a ban
his mic!
because we've gotten
Silence
what
the mic!
everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else. And
I just wanted to call him
legal
fat.
scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the
That
states
is
are voting.
such a load
And it may take a
of
little
bullshit.
time.
Oh
but
my
for
God.
52 years, this issue has torn our country
The upsetting
apart.
thing about when Donald Trump lies like that, and like just bold-faced, is that he does it so confidently that you know you're going to hear it at the Thanksgiving
He says
table.
is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't
Trump was
matter
bad,
because
man.
this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
You would do the
won't
same
have to,
thing. You
because,
just beat
again,
up poor people.
Two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Because of his
The
Supreme
student loans,
Court.
And then her, I think
Oh,
probably
fuck
her boss,
this guy.
if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But
I
look,
hate him.
Her boss went out and
I
said,
always
"We'll
forget
do
how
it
much I
again.
hate
We'll
Donald
do it a
Trump.
different way." And he went
He's
out,
such a
got
piece of
rejected
shit.
again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got
Dude, it is
taunted with this
amazing
whole thing about
how
this
not
whole
even
idea.
5 minutes
And how
ago
unfair
he
that
was
would have
saying
been
how it
part
was
of the
so
reason
great
they
that he
lost
packed the
to
Supreme
the
Court,
millions
and
and
so
millions of
all of their
people that had to
decisions
pay
belong
off
to
their
him.
student
And
loans.
now he's
They
like,
didn't
oh
get
no,
it
the
for
student
free.
loans getting
But they were
overturned by the
saying it's the
Supreme
same
Court
way
is
that
because
they
of
talk
Biden
about
being
that,
bad.
that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D.
Trump as
Vance,
Batman
has
is
said
crazy,
that you
not
would
gonna
veto
lie.
if you did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness.
Have the best
J.D.,
justice.
and
Yes, I
I
give
don't
the best
mind if he
justice.
has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't.
I
Look,
actually am Batman.
we
My
don't have to
therapist says
discuss
so.
it because she'd never be able to get it, just
In
like
the
she couldn't
family.
get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote
Donald
of the people
Trump.
on abortion.
Vice President
Donald
Harris,
Trump
I wanna give
is
you the time
almost
to respond,
like
but I do wanna ask, would you support
exclusively
any restrictions on a
responsible
woman's right to an abortion?
for
Absolutely support
the
reinstating
overturn for
protections
the
of
student
Roe v.
loan
Wade.
issue.
And as
Like,
you
he
rightly
appointed the
mentioned,
judges.
nowhere
He
in
publicly spoke
America
out
is
against
a woman
it.
carrying a pregnancy to term and asking
What are
for
you saying,
an
what the fuck
abortion.
for,
That is not
Ty?
happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's
Oh, I
abortion
watch
bans.
a lot of Donald Trump.
Couples who pray and
I don't just hate Donald
dream
Trump
of
'cause he's
having
cool.
a family
I hate him 'cause I listen
are
to
being
him.
denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two
apparently
jobs,
Edgar
who
Menton's
can
on
barely
this- on the
afford
stream right now.
childcare
But watch
as
my
it
stream.
is, have to
But Edgar
travel
Menton's
to
one of my
another
favorite
state,
political commentators.
to get on a plane sitting next to strangers, to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can
Get up.
afford to do it, and what you are putting
Dude,
her through
I
is
don't see-
unconscionable. And the people of
let
America
her cook.
have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is
not going great for him. I'm
the
being real.
IVF.
Yeah,
I have been
no,
a leader.
he's getting he's getting cooked.
When they got a very negative decision
Like,
on IVF from the Alabama courts,
oh
I
shit!
saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it.
Yeah,
in.
no, he's getting
I've
cooked.
been a
Like
leader
between
on it. They
his
know
own,
that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader
his own Supreme
on
Court being
fertilization,
responsible for
IVF.
most of this.
And the other thing, you should ask.
Vice president,
Will she
his
allow
vice presidential
abortion
pick
in the 8th month,
being like
9th month,
super
7th month?
anti-IVF.
Okay,
like,
would you do that?
He is cooked on this topic. He
Why don't you
can't
ask that
fucking.
question?
Why don't you
He has no leg to
question,
stand on.
Because under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question with your veto.
you could do abortions
Damn,
in the 7th
damn, hold him
month,
down,
the 8th
Kamala.
month, the
Hold him
9th
down.
month, and probably after that, just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump,
No, honestly, like
On
on the topic of abortion, Trump cannot
security.
win.
We
He
know
is
it's
so
an issue
cooked.
that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly.
Dude, she's the do not come
but my question
lady.
to you tonight
How
is
are you
why
gonna
did the
get her with
administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done
Oh,
anything differently
this
from
is so
President Biden on
annoying,
this?
dude.
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking
I
of guns,
hate that the
drugs,
liberal
and
media
human
has
beings.
catered to the
And let me say
immigration
that
crisis
the United
narrative
States Congress,
that the
including some of the
Republicans
most conservative
cooked up
members
in
of
like
the United States Senate,
2016.
came up
It
with
has
a
never
border
once
security
borne
bill,
fruit.
which I supported. And
I am happy that
bill
they're
would have
real-time
put
fact-checking him,
1,500
though.
more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into
Be
the
fair,
United
Thunder,
States.
Ty wouldn't have
I know
gotten
there are so
banned.
many
It would have
families
still
watching
gotten
tonight
blocked
who have been
if
personally
he had said
affected
pew pew.
by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put
Fentanyl
more
comes
resources
through
to allow
legal
us to
venues or
prosecute
legal avenues of
transnational
immigration.
criminal
It is
organizations
brought into
for
this country
trafficking in guns,
largely
drugs, and
by
human beings.
people
But you know
who
what
are
happened to that bill?
citizens of the United States.
Donald Trump got
It
on
is
the
not
phone,
immigrants bringing
called
fentanyl
up
into this
some
country.
folks in
That
Congress
is just
and
a
said, "Kill the
racist
bill."
lie
And you know
that
why?
right now the
Because
Democratic
he
nominee
preferred to
is
run on a problem instead of
reiterating on a
fixing
national stage.
a problem.
That is insane.
And understand, this comes
God.
at a time
God.
where the
I
people
hate Donald
of our
Trump.
country
Why does she
actually
keep
need
trying
a
to
leader
be like Donald Trump?
who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
Damn.
You will
Damn,
see
she's
during
sassy.
the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer.
It's a little funny. I'm a little bit back
And what you will
on
also
the
notice
other
is
side.
that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about
Pyro.
your needs, your dreams,
Oh
and
my
your
God,
need
that
and
is
your
such an
desires.
accurate-
And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a
immigration
president
drinking game.
who actually puts
Oh
you
God,
first.
I would
And I
die.
pledge to you that I will.
Vice
But
President Harris,
Pyro,
thank you.
he
President Trump,
reminds
on
me
that
of
point, I
Trisha
wanna get your
Paytas.
Well, I would
response.
like to respond.
Let me
Trump
just ask, though,
is the
why did you
Trisha
try to
Paytas
kill that
of
bill, and successfully so, that would have
politics.
put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go,
you know
she's busing
he's
them
so
in and
upset
paying
on all
them
the
to be there.
reports that his
and
rallies
then
are
showing them
underattended.
in a different light.
And that,
so
like,
she can't
Kamala's
talk about that.
rallies are
People don't leave my
fucking
rallies.
blowing
We have
up.
the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in
Dog,
the history
he
of
can-
politics.
he can't
That's
even
because
get a
people wanna
stadium
take
anymore.
Their country back. Our
His
country
rallies
is
are-
being lost. We're a
Oh,
failing
God.
nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going
We're a
on
failing
here,
nation.
you can end up in World
Ignore
War
what I
III, just to
did,
go into
though.
another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're
Donald
so
Trump
embarrassed
is no,
by
yeah.
it.
Donald Trump is a
In
toxic boyfriend,
Springfield,
Pyro. That's exactly it. In
they're
fact,
eating
the Republican
dogs,
Party,
the people that came
writ
in,
large,
they're
is
eating
basically
the
an
cats,
emotional.
they're eating-
Jesus Christ, is basically an
they're
emotionally
eating the
abusive
pets
relationship.
of the people that
Bro,
live there.
there's no
And
way
this is
he's
what's
repeating the
happening in
fucking
our
guinea
country,
pig or
and it's
whatever
a shame.
story.
As far as
This is
rallies are
insane.
concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring
Gal,
up
do you remember
Springfield,
the Pledge of
Ohio,
America, the Pledge of
and
Allegiance?
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed,
thank
injured,
God.
or abused by individuals
Holy shit.
within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I'm
this-
glad that
people
they
on
at least
Let me just say here,
fucking.
this is
The people on television say
clear-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that.
He's
and
literally
maybe that's a
he's
good
doing
thing
the
to
like
say for a city
Twitter
manager.
said.
taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
God.
Again, the Springfield city
he's
manager
so
says there's no evidence of
stupid.
that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I
Oh,
think, one
sorry.
of the
She's so
reasons
funny
why
to me.
in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain,
That was so
including the
sassy.
endorsement of former Vice President
talk
Dick
about
Cheney and
extreme.
Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is
Pledge of
dangerous
America
and
with the January
unfit.
6th criminals.
His
Wait, what?
former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
God, okay, here's another thing,
And
right?
when we listen
He looks
to
so
this
fucking
kind of
dead
rhetoric,
behind the eyes
when the issues that
like,
affect the American people
juxtaposed
are
with
not being
her.
addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
Does he look
President
like a
Trump, we'll
Muppet
give
when
you
he
a
looks
quick
down
minute
and
to
smiles?
respond.
Because he's,
Thank you.
he is
Because
he's a puppet.
when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people.
Bro, look at that
Not so
arch.
graciously. They did
Look at that
bad
big
things or a
back.
bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who.
It's so weird how Donald Trump is like, yeah, no, I have such poor judgment that I hire people regularly that I have to fire.
All those generals, all
And
those
then
top
he's like,
people,
but
because that was one of
she
the
never
most
fires anyone.
incompetently handled situations
dude, that's-
anybody has ever
that's like
seen.
criticism
So
against you,
when somebody
dude.
does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job.
What does that
and they
mean?
never fire
With
anybody.
me, they can
Look
write
at the
books?
economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's
Oh,
a good way
shit, I
not to
forgot
have books
about
written
that.
about you. But just to finish,
my
I got more
God.
votes
That was
than any
insane, where he got all the
Republican in
January
history
6th
by far.
insurrectionists to sing for him.
In fact, I got more votes than any president,
And
sitting
that one
president
traitor,
in history
that general.
by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this.
The
What
most
does this
votes
look like?
ever.
Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They
It's a
allowed
lie he didn't have
common
popular vote.
street
Yeah, no,
criminals.
he's never
they
won a
allowed
popular
people to
vote.
come in, drug
That's
dealers
just like
to
a
come into our
classic
country,
Trump
and they're
lie.
now in the United States and told by
Once
their
again,
countries
fascist
like
rhetoric, he has to
Venezuela,
convince his
don't ever
base
come
that he's
back or we're
popular.
going to kill you.
Faux
Do you know that
populism.
crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
So we should do what Venezuela's done.
This will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think
once again, it's the fascist rhetoric. The enemy is strong and weak at the same time.
Worth it. Because they're destroying the fabric
they're only strong
of our country by what
them.
they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country.
Ugh.
Millions of people.
His whole strategy is trust me, bro. Exactly.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made.
People on television.
Crime in this country is through the roof, and we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Thank you, Brittany, on TikTok.
They were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They
didn't
include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their
this is such like tired 2016 rhetoric from him. I'm so tired of this asshole. Like, if anything, I want him to lose just so he will go away.
Coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes.
He's lost his mind. Damn right, Bearsuit.
Has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Get him!
And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we
if you're going to talk about police as a Democrat, I think it's much better if you talk about
same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people.
Operate. Don't just be like, they're so great because Donald Trump is a criminal.
Which I have a plan for. Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with the same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me.
She's throwing his crimes out, but she's doing it through this avenue of like he actually hates the police, but like I don't think policing is as popular an institution amongst the Democratic voter base. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to move the needle. I just personally
those are cases. It's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ.
This man in 2020 ran on the he literally on the campaign trail talked about how he had the sheriffs in Oregon go and execute a BLM protester. And now he's saying that they're bad because they're taking him to court for fucking administrative issues? Fuck this guy.
What happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total
He literally ran on using the police departments to kill
protesters.
And
they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
He used it. It's happened in this country when he did it.
President Trump,
except he had his opponent killed, or his political dissident.
Of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again.
Low-key believing.
Understand that this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain
this is good.
Members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people to stop him.
She just called J.D. Vance catching strays in the debate. That's so funny.
This is the one that weaponized, not me.
Shut up.
She weaponized.
Once again, he had a protester killed in 2020.
The things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
we do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot
Dog,
to
that
get
is
to,
such a
Vice
bad
President
time
Harris,
to
in your
bring that
last
up
run
when
for
Russia
president, you
was
said you
just
wanted to
caught
ban fracking.
2 days
Now you
ago,
don't. You wanted
actively
mandatory
interfering with
government
our
buyback
election
programs for
on
assault
his
weapons.
behalf.
Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings.
You forget he just
now
lies,
you're
bro.
taking a
True,
harder
true.
line. I know you say
It is.
that
It's just
your
trust me, bro,
values have not
politics.
changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking.
Every time I'm like a little bit on her side.
We have got to invest
Like, no,
in
don't double
diverse
down on
sources of
fracking.
energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest
Fracking is an extremely
domestic oil
destructive
production in
form of
history
extracting
because
natural
of an
gas
approach
from
that
the deep
recognizes
earth.
that we cannot
And it
over-rely on foreign oil.
destroys
As it
power
relates
plastic
to my
ground for
values, let me
minerals,
tell you,
basically.
I grew up a middle-class kid
Yeah, it
raised by a
destroys
hardworking mother
water wells,
who
local water
worked and
sources.
saved
Like
and was able to
people,
buy our
entire
first home when I was
counties
a
have been
teenager.
poisoned by
The
fracking.
values I bring to the importance of home ownership,
But it's
knowing
like
not
a
everybody got handed
huge jobs
$400
market
million
in those
on a
areas
silver platter and
that
then
they're
filed
very
bankruptcy
dependent
6
on.
times.
So
Is
the
a value
Democrats are
that I
too
bring
scared
to
to
my
just be
work
like, hey, we're
to
going to
say we are
retrain
going
you.
to
We're
work
going to
with the
give you
private
an
sector and
education
home
so you're not
builders
tied to this
increase
one fucking job
3 million
until
homes,
you die
increase
or
by
it
3
kills
million
you
homes by the
and
end of
your
my
town.
first term. My work that is related to having
Buy
a
a
friend
Tesla.
when I was
Don't
in
buy
high
a
school
Tesla.
who was
Buy-
sexually
there's
assaulted by
better
her
electronic
stepfather.
cars.
And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare
All about the
is based on
Cybertruck.
long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the
hitting him
leader
when they rip the
is
Band-Aid off
leader
or the
who
mask
actually
off,
understands the strength
and
is
they
not
just
in
really
beating
call him
people
a high
down,
school
it's in
bully.
lifting people
I think
up.
that's an
I
effective
intend to be that
like vector of
president.
attack.
President Trump, your
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn,
just
Queens,
short of Cybertruck.
and
Just
a
throw
great
water on
father,
it.
and I learned a lot
Hey,
from
Russ.
him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into
A
many,
tiny
many
fraction.
billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about
Whenever he
that.
talks about how he was
Fracking,
like such a
she's been against
successful
it for
businessman,
12
I think
years.
of like the reports from
Defund the
inside his
police. She's been
administration
against that forever.
that
She gave all
he
that
only
stuff
ran in
up
2016
very wrongly,
because he
very
was going
horribly,
broke and he needed to
everybody's
sell
laughing
merch.
at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12
Oh
and
no, yeah,
probably 14
Donald
or
Trump
15
loves
different
portraying
policies.
rags
Like,
to riches.
she was big on
He
defund
loves
the police.
telling
In
people that like,
Minnesota,
oh, I
she
was
went out-
poor
wait a minute,
and I'm
talking now.
self-made.
If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out.
He's so
in
sassy.
Minnesota
Shut the fuck
and wanted
up,
to
you
let
racist
criminals
asshole.
that killed people, that burned down
many
Minneapolis.
billions.
She went
Yeah,
out and
no,
raised
dude, this
money to
dude's
get 'em out of
insane.
jail.
Also, it's
She
really
did
funny when
things
you
that nobody
remember
would ever
that this
think
room
of.
has 5
Now she
people in
wants to
it.
do
Like,
transgender operations
they're not
on
talking to
illegal
an
aliens
audience.
that are in prison. This is a
He's talking to,
radical
like-
left liberal that would do this. She wants
oh,
to
dude, she's
confiscate
so
your
radical
guns,
left.
and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania.
It's
If she
insane that
won
he's
the
trying to
election,
portray
fracking in Pennsylvania
Kamala
will
this
end
way.
on
Like,
day one.
it's like he's
Just to
never
finish one thing so
seen
important
her
in my
speak
opinion.
about anything.
So
I think genuinely,
I got the oil business going like nobody
he
has
still
ever done
thinks that he's
before.
running against
They took-
like
when they
Biden
took
on
over,
some level, like
they got
inside
rid
his
of it,
heart.
started getting rid of it, and the prices
Just
were
to be
going
fair,
up the roof.
basically
They
is.
immediately let these guys go
Went
to where
to
they were.
transgender operations in
I would have
prison.
been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5
Honestly,
years ago.
oh, yeah.
They got it up
Be gay,
to
do
where I
crime.
was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go
Wow,
back
wonder
to
how
Trump.
that happened.
But if she won the election,
Don't
the
ask
day
how
after that
something
election,
happens.
They'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be
Okay,
dead.
Pyro,
We'll go back
let's
to windmills, and we'll go
calm
back to
down.
solar,
Let's
where
settle
they need a whole
down.
desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar.
I understand the
But they take
sentiment. Well, let's cool the rhetoric with
400,
that one.
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment, as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters
to
march
read
the Capitol.
feminist
You said you would
literature
be
for the
right
rest
there
of
with
their
them.
life.
The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office.
How much I like
you did
bell
send out
hooks.
tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your
Yeah, dude,
supporters
it's
to go home.
libflation.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically.
Yeah, that
And
matters.
nobody on the
That
other
definitely
side
matters,
was
dog.
killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her.
Once again,
It's a
5 minutes
disgrace.
ago, he was
But
talking
we
about
didn't
how
do this
Kamala
group of people
was
that have been treated
anti-police.
so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are
Listen to
pouring into
Drew
our
F.
country and
Whaley.
killing people?
I'm not
that
touching
she
that
allowed
one.
to pour
I'm
in?
not
She was the
touching
border
that
czar.
one.
Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want
Yeah.
to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed.
Yeah,
by
he
the border.
believes
In
in-
fact, she
he
said
believes
at the
in
beginning, well,
immunity
I'm surprised
for
you're
the
not talking
police.
about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be prosecuted?
Dude, I love
What are
that,
these
like,
people
oh,
from
her
countries
face.
all over the world, not just
She's
South
like,
America.
oh, this is
They're
painful.
coming in
She's
from
cringing.
all over the world,
She's
David,
calling
all
him
over the
weird
world.
without
And
calling him
crime
weird.
rates
I
are
love
down
that.
all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of those, David, one of those people are going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis is going to be prosecuted.
Oh!
In Seattle, they went into
Oh!
Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle.
Seattle's
One of those people are
fallen!
gonna be
Oh
prosecuted.
no!
But let me just ask.
You might ask her that question.
You were the
God.
president. You were watching it
He's
unfold
so
on television.
desperate. He's
It's a
going
very
back to
simple question
2020.
as we move
He's going back to
forward toward another
2016.
election.
He
Is
has
there anything
nothing.
you regret about what you
She
did
is
on
mean
that
girling
day?
him, and it's working.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it.
Or
And
whatever
again,
you wanna
it wasn't
call
done
it.
by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you
Oh,
10,000
dude, if she
National
had
Guard
gum,
soldiers. They
if she
rejected
was
me. Nancy
mocking
Pelosi
him while
rejected
chewing
me. It
gum
was just
sarcastically,
2 weeks
awesome.
ago, her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It
Dude,
would
it's
have
really
never
weird
happened if Nancy
how,
Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their
It's not
jobs.
even weird.
I
He's a
wasn't
narcissist.
responsible
So the
for
very
security.
concept of
Nancy
accountability
Pelosi
he
was
perceives
responsible.
as an
She didn't
admission
do her
of
job.
guilt.
The question was about you as president, not about
He will
former
never
Speaker
own up
Pelosi,
to
but I do want
anything.
Vice
So if
President
you
Harris to
like
respond.
ever own up to even a fraction of your
I was at the
responsibility for
Capitol on
something,
January 6th.
he sees that as a
I was the vice president-elect. I was
what's it?
also an acting senator.
as admitting
I was there.
guilt.
And on that day, the
Bro
president
is
of the
tweaking.
United States
He is
incited
tweaking,
a violent
dude.
mob
He's low-key losing his
to
shit.
attack our nation's
Look at that
capital,
nussy, dude.
to desecrate our
at
nation's
it.
capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement
I don't think
officers
you're
were
allowed to
injured.
show that on TV.
And some
But
died.
whatever. We're here now.
And understand, the
Well, that's
former
missing Steve
president has
Notch's
been
comment.
indicted and
I'm still
impeached
reading that
for
comment.
exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches.
Oh yeah, no, he.
Spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what
It's
did
shocking that he
the
can do
president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a
I'm not
militia,
gonna lie. I think. Okay, never mind. We're
the
moving
president
on.
said,
I think
the former
constantly going back to
president said,
Charlottesville is a
"Stand back and
bit
stand by."
run its course
So
within
for
the public
everyone
dialect.
watching who remembers what January 6th was,
Can we reenact this
I
debate?
say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
Muppet
And if
hands
that was
for
a
Trump,
bridge too
just to,
far
like-
for you, well,
like-
there is a place in our campaign for you to stand
Just like holding on to things.
for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy.
She needs to like hit this
you
vein
don't
a
like
lot
the
heavier.
outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump,
The more
candidate,
she just reminds
has said
people
in this
like
election, there
he
will be
sucks.
a bloodbath.
Let's please just
If
move
this
on. I
and the
think that's her
outcome of
most
this election
effective
is not to his liking.
approach.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
Good. That was a good closer.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
Dog, she has him on such a back foot right now. This is insane.
They covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025
Once again, the newspapers are only good when they are serving his narrative. Otherwise, it's fake news. Fascist rhetoric. They are both strong and weak. They are both evil and good. Constant contradictions.
I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't
He
need
thinks
bills.
he's running
They
against
have the right to do it.
Biden. He thinks he's running against Joe Biden.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you say, come on down to the
He
office.
is
let's
not
sign a bill."
aware.
If he signs a bill that the border is closed,
I'm not
all
gonna
he has to
jump to
do is say
conclusions,
it to
but
the
he's done
Border
nothing but play
Patrol, who are
defense.
phenomenal. If they do
Oh,
that,
yeah.
the border
No.
is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
She has him on like such a back foot. He has to
focus
resort
on
to like
this
the
next issue
2020
because
lies,
it really
the
brings us,
2016
this
lies.
into focus. Truth
Like,
in these times that we're living
he's
in.
doing a good job
Mr.
at
President,
least,
for
like,
3.5 years after
keeping
you lost
him,
the 2020 election, you repeatedly
away from
falsely
his
claimed
usual
that you
bully
won,
tactics.
many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in
what? I said that?
I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look.
Even if
there's
it's
so much
sarcastic,
proof.
that's
All
still
you
an
have to do is
admission.
look
Like,
at it, and they should have sent it back to
the sarcasm has to be
legislatures for
rooted
approval.
in truth.
I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as
That's this entire
two things.
thing so
We need
far.
walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections.
Oh, yeah, we definitely don't have any
Elections are
borders,
bad.
dude. It's
And
not like we're 50 of
a lot of these illegal
them.
immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically.
He's such
And
a-
these people are trying to get them to
I
vote.
hate
and
him.
that's why they're allowing them to come
Whenever,
into our
like,
country.
I already hate the Democrats' stance on immigration. When Donald Trump talks about immigrants, I see red.
And you know this.
I
You
hate
and your
this
allies,
man.
60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine
Donald
a
Trump,
system
he's like, I'm
where
too
a
fat to
person
stand.
in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is
He got ahead of that.
David.
He was like, they're going to say I put it
Thank
into
you.
decline,
Vice
but it was
President
actually
Harris,
them who put
you
it
heard
into
the president there
decline.
tonight. He said he didn't
Despite,
say
you
that
know,
he lost by a whisker, so he
all
still
the other
believes,
evidence.
he did not lose the election.
You're right.
That
Dude,
was
we would
won
be dead
by
if we did the
President
drinking
Biden,
game on this
and
debate.
yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials. He says will be prosecuted
I
to
still
the
know
fullest
nothing about
extent
sports,
of the law,
but your ability
which
to
will
draw
include
parallels
long-term prison sentences.
with it makes
One of your
me happy.
campaign's top lawyers
I
responded saying, "We won't let Donald Trump
allegorical
intimidate
mind.
us. We won't let him suppress the vote." Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Oh yeah, that's the playbook.
Donald Trump was
Say it with your
fired
chest,
by
girl.
81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
She's being too verbose about it. He's racist. He's racist, and he's trying to implement voter suppression tactics on a federal level.
Over again, our court cases you have lost.
Just call him a racist.
You did, in fact, lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
Secular Talks Kyle Kalinske just posted this on Twitter. I'm going to leave it up for a second.
One of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person. Smart.
That is Kamala's face on the plane.
They said, why is the whole world
Isn't Trump a felon? How is he still able to run? Felons can still
blowing
run
up?
for office
He said,
in
because you need
the United States of
back as
America, and that is a
president.
good thing.
They
in
were
my
afraid
opinion.
of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to
felons
use the word
can run.
afraid, but I'm
Felons
just quoting
should be
him.
able to vote.
China
The fact that
was
they can't,
afraid
I
of
think,
him.
is
North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him.
I don't think you
ended
should
the
be
Nord Stream 2
disenfranchised
pipeline,
simply
and
because
Biden
you
put it
committed
back
crime.
on day one, but he
Especially as I'm
ended the
not
XL
morally
pipeline.
opposed to crime.
The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany,
happening?
the biggest pipeline in the world. Look,
like
Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few
Usually
months
he's
ago,
so good at
that if
reading
he
the
weren't
room
in
on
that
this
debate,
shit.
he'd be running
Let's
instead
feed
of
my
her. She got
pipeline.
no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to
But like
democracy.
he doesn't seem to understand that like whenever he brings up Viktor Orban, people cringe. Viktor Orban is a self-described he's like self-described himself as the last fascist in Europe. Like he's not a popular figure in America. He's not even a good international figure to cite.
Now she's running.
It's insane.
I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and
Oh,
the
God.
hostages
Oh,
who are
no,
still
this is not
being
gonna
held,
go well.
Americans among them. Vice President Harris,
Oh,
in
no.
December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly
It's
100
estimated to be
hostages
a lot
remain.
higher than that.
Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in
That's
the
the
making.
generous
President
estimate.
Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you
I
do
think
it?
the last number was 100.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered
I think it was
1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would.
But
And
they've
how it
gone
does so
too far
matters.
in that, something like
Because
that.
it is also true, far too many
Oh,
innocent Palestinians have been killed.
okay.
Children, mothers.
No.
What we know is that this war must end. It
You know,
must end immediately, and the way it will
it's
end
not
is we need a
it's not
ceasefire
mine
deal,
to
and we need the
accept
hostages
or reject.
out.
I
And so
will
we
say I
continue to
appreciate
work
that she at
around the
least
clock
acknowledged
on
that Palestinians are
work
suffering
around the clock,
in
also
her
understanding
response.
that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in
I
that
think the best she
solution,
could have done,
there
Pyro,
must be security for the
Is to
Israeli
basically
people
just be
and
like,
Israel, and in equal
explicitly,
measure for the Palestinians.
like, they need to
but
stop
the
or
one thing
we're
I will
gonna
assure you
withhold
always,
arms.
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians
is not
have
popular.
security, self-determination, and
This
the
is going to be a
dignity
clip
they
that
so rightly deserve.
play on Fox
President
News to
Trump,
portray her
how
as a
would you
war hawk.
negotiate with Netanyahu
They're going to say that he's trying to start
and also Hamas in
conflict
order
in
to
the
get the
Middle East.
hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent
Watch as Donald Trump
civilians in
says that
Gaza?
this would
If
never
I were
happen under him,
president,
even though
it
he is
would have never
directly
started.
responsible for
If I
it
were
with the
president,
Abraham Accords.
Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have
Oh, no, he's
never,
talking
and there
about
was no
Ukraine.
threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there.
True, Fox News
But when she mentions
already
about Israel,
blocked
all
them.
of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with
Oh, is he gonna drop-
Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech.
Is he gonna
She
drop the
refused to
bad
be there 'cause she was
Palestinian
at a
line again?
sorority party
That was
of hers.
funny.
She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong
What?
about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was
watch,
broke
so many
under
people
Donald
are
Trump.
gonna hear that,
Now
or
Iran has
there's gonna be, like,
$300 billion
brain-rotted
because they took off all
TikTok
the sanctions
people
that I had.
who,
Iran
like,
had no money
don't
for
keep
Hamas
up with this
or
outside of the
Hezbollah or any of the
voice clips
28
that are gonna be
different
like, he's the best vote for
spheres
Palestinians.
of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, Pyro,
ended.
exactly. She
If
hates
I'm
Israel. What are you going to do
president-elect,
about
I'll
it?
get
No, she hates
done
Israel.
before
That's his
even
entire
becoming
argument.
President. Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true.
Yeah,
I have
dude, no.
my entire
She's
career
gonna
and
be
life
doing fucking tricks on
supported
it now.
Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that he's trying to again divide
God,
and
they're
distract
fucking
from the
they're
reality,
fighting
which
over
is
who
it
can
is
suck
very
it the
well
hardest.
known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself.
She called him a
It
penis
is
potato.
well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is
Love letters.
absolutely
Oh, that's
well
so
known
funny.
that these
Oh,
dictators
dude.
and
When they
autocrats
hit him
are
with the
rooting
sass, it's
for
so
you
good.
to be
'Cause
president
he is,
again
he's
because
just
they're
a sassy
so clear.
person.
They can
beat him at his own
manipulate
game.
you with flattery and favors.
Damn,
And
okay,
that
I
is
do love this
why
part of it, right?
So many military leaders who you have worked with
When
have
she just
told
looks
me
at him and
you
speaks
are
to
a
him
disgrace.
directly, I think that's real
That
good.
is why
It makes him
we
look like he's a little
understand
kid
that
being lectured by
we
his
have to have
mom.
a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
inclone the importance
Yeah, Pyro, that's
of
exactly it, 'cause his own
upholding
policy
and
is Project
respecting in
2025, which
highest
is
regard
extremely
our
unpopular.
military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
So he's never going to talk about
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year 168
How long do you
different
think until he
countries
calls
sending
the
people into our
Proctor's
country.
secret
Their crime rates are
Marxists?
way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of
Does he
issues to get
think
to.
that Biden like controls European commerce
from the National Constitution Center right
writ
here
large?
in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Yes, Harris is cooking Trump. Like high key. Oh, thank God. These two morons are done talking. Dude, no, Harris is cooking him. Like, he's been on the back foot pretty much, I think, like, ever since she basically said that his crowds were small. He's been on the back foot, like, the entire debate. Like, he's flailing. He's bringing up talking points from 2016. Oh, shit. They're doing fact-checking. Damn. That's insane. I'm actually impressed that they're not just letting him go with it at this point. But yeah, no, he's been on the back foot the entire time. Kamala is cooking him. I think, if we're lucky, by the end of this stream, he will be doing that like sweaty, gross thing that he's been doing for the last few speeches, where he just like starts sweating profusely. Also, the Science Walrus, welcome. A toddler might be able to cook Trump. To be fair, not discrediting Harris at all, but he doesn't make it hard. No, that is true. Like, Trump is a very easy candidate to beat. That's why it was so shocking that Biden was struggling against him. Also, he is ignoring the question and trying to talk about something else. Yeah, that's just his whole thing. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna move on. Like, I don't like that question, or it doesn't make me look good. Skip on to the next topic. Talk about immigrants or some shit. It's like very basic demagoguery. I like how Harris stays calm and professional, and Trump loses his temper every time he talks. That is, yes, Harris is controlling the aesthetics of this debate very well, in my opinion, at least to the median voter. Not to me. I'm kind of hating some of the shit that's going on like when it comes to her rhetoric, but the actual, I guess I should say, I am a fan of the aesthetics she's controlling. I'm not a fan necessarily of the rhetoric she's putting forth. Oh, the Science Walrus, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it greatly. Yeah, no, she's controlling the aesthetics really well. I think if Donald Trump starts sweating, let me see if I can get this, a picture of this. I think he was speaking at, what would it have been? It wasn't a Turning Point conference. But he was like real gross the other day. Oh, no. Damn, I can't find it. But, yeah, no, he's been sweating a lot during his speeches. And if he starts sweating, he's cooked. If he starts looking that way, he's done. Trump voters aren't going to change their vote, but I think Kamala might gain a good amount. Yeah, they're not really fighting over each other's voters, I think. I think they're trying to fight over the undecided, also telling, sorry. Yes, no, the fact-checking by the reporters is impressive. But they're not trying to steal voters from each other at this point. They're trying to mobilize apathetic or undecided voters against their opponent towards themselves. At the very least, they're trying to prevent people from voting from the other person. That's how these electoral politics have been since 2016. Why? Because Donald Trump won by doing that. He basically he convinced enough people that Hillary Clinton sucked. Nobody went out and voted for Hillary Clinton, or at least not enough people did. And like, he won the election. It was an effective strategy. So now they're trying to repeat it. It's a dog shit strategy that leads to dog shit candidates. But you know, you get what you get. It honestly feels like a letdown all around. They're both repeating the same shit and dodging questions. I think that's definitely a fair criticism for both of them, but I think that does land more heavily on Donald Trump's shoulders than Kamala's. I think Kamala is Kamala, but I think he's dodging questions a bit more. Who do you think is going to win this election after this? Ooh, I don't know. You see, it's very hard to predict that. I think popular vote, Harris in a landslide. I think as far as the electoral vote, that's going to be so much trickier because, like, I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I believe it's something like the Democrats need, like, or Republicans can win a presidential election with only like 33% of the popular vote or something insane like that if the districts align correctly. like it is insanely skewed because of the electoral college. And we need to like do reform on that front so badly. He also is lying about 2025. JD Vance helped in Project. Yeah, no, he's like blatantly lying about Project 2025. He's like his connections to it are well recorded. There's literally, I don't know why he keeps doing that. It's very strange in my opinion, because like the dude, like the ties are so apparent, so obvious. Oh shit, here we go. We're back, boys.
Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy.
We're on Ukraine.
That it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight.
Okay,
how exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly.
Oh, dude!
People being
they
killed
gave
by
him
millions. It's
God.
the millions.
Fuck.
It's so
Sports analogy. Pyro.
The numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
They gave him an easy layup.
We're in for 250
and he fucking tackled the pole. What
because
the
they
fuck?
don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are.
He literally just had to say yes.
$150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said,
it's insane how transparently he seems to be
we're not going to
in
protect
the
you
pocket
anymore.
of
So
Russia
that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening.
I don't know that much
We're
about sports. That sounds right.
250 to 275 billion.
I think everything will go to
100 to
bad, especially wars with
They
Trump.
should be forced to equalize. With that
it's the
being
universal
said,
law of American
I want to get
politics.
the war settled.
Republicans
I know
make it worse,
Zelensky
Democrats do
very well,
nothing
and
to
I know
make it
Putin
better.
very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your
Oh
president.
yeah, no, he's gonna go back
they
to.
They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would
if you took a
respect
shot every
him?
time he brought up
Why?
immigrants,
For what
we
reason?
would.
He hasn't even made a phone call
coma.
in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war
I don't think he gives a shit enough
and
about
in fact,
this election
when I saw Putin
to change his rhetoric.
Unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell.
The
But
pipeline
after I
gonna be
left, when
brought
I
back
saw him
again.
building up
Bro,
soldiers,
if he brings up the
he
pipeline,
did it
that's gonna be
after I
so
left.
funny.
I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no
why does he
idea
keep
how
bringing
to
up
stop
Biden?
it.
Because he's
And now
really
you have
desperate
millions of
to
people
tie the
dead,
Biden
and it's only
administration
getting
to
worse, and it could lead to
Harris.
World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a
They
president that we don't even know if he's.
The only
Where is
Republican
our
that has my
president?
respect
We
on
don't even know if
Democratic
he's a
Ronald
president.
Reagan.
They
What?
threw him out of a campaign like a
Trump
dog.
is
We
the
don't
result
even
of
know.
Ronald Reagan.
Is
You
he
can't
our
really
president?
like one and hate
But we
the
have a
other.
president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's
We're
alive.
not going to derail.
Your
with
time
that.
is up.
Okay,
Just to
that was
clarify
funny.
the
That was a
question,
funny line by Biden.
Do you believe
or
it's in
by
the
Trump.
U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the
Why does
US
he keep talking about
best
Biden?
interest to get
Because
this war
he's
finished
desperate.
and just get it
He
done.
knows that Biden is
Negotiate
largely
a deal,
unpopular, and
because we
he's
have
hoping
to
that if he can
stop
tie him
all of these
closer to
human
Harris,
lives
it'll damage
from
Harris.
being destroyed.
I want to
But
take this to
people
Vice
aren't
President
gonna
Harris. I want to
buy
get your
that.
thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all,
Trump is
it's
cooked.
important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump
Yes,
says
Pyro,
that
that's
this
actually
war would
exactly
be
it.
over
His whole
within
thing is that
24
Biden
hours
is
is
old, and
because
now
he
that
would
he's
just
gone, he
give it
has
up.
nothing. That is it.
And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky
2022.
a few days before Russia
Wait, Pyro,
invaded,
who's the team that we support? I always
tried
forget.
through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most
Yeah,
important
dude,
international
the
rules and norms,
post-birth
which
abortions
is the
lie is
importance
like
of sovereignty and territorial
older than
integrity.
90% of the
And I
people
met
that
with
are going to
President
vote for him.
Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's
damn.
eastern flank, to Poland and Romania.
Okay.
And through the
like
work
low
that
key,
I and
this
others
is
did,
actually
we
good
brought
for her
50
because
countries
everybody was
together
like
to support Ukraine in its righteous
it's kind of a
defense.
meme that she was kind of wasted on
Because of our
international
support,
policy, but this
because
is a
of the
strong
air defense, the
this is a strong
ammunition,
point.
the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine
like the
stands
Raiders, but
as
the
an
Raiders sucks.
independent
Okay.
and free country. If Donald Trump were
Tells you
president,
we aren't
Putin would be
bandwagoning.
sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda
Went to
is
the other
not just
countries,
about
couldn't visit the
Ukraine.
border.
Understand why
Did
the
go to the
European
border.
allies
The
and our
borders
NATO
are.
allies
You remember?
are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians
why
to
do they
fight
give
for
a
their
shit about
independence.
NATO?
Otherwise,
Who is the
Putin would be
single
sitting in
issue
Kyiv
NATO
with his
voter that they
eyes
are
on the
trying
rest
to
of
reach?
Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the
Kamala's
sake
currently
of
cooking him right
favor
now, bro. He doesn't-
and what you think is a
Yeah, no.
friendship with what is
Bro,
known to be a
once
dictator
again, when she looks
who
at
would
him-
eat you for lunch.
When she looks
Vice
at him
President
and
Harris,
just like
thank you. We've heard
fucking
from both of you
beams
on
him,
Ukraine tonight.
he just looks like a
Afghanistan came up in
kid
the
being
last
lectured
hour.
by their teacher.
I wanted her to respond to something you said
It is
earlier.
insane.
Please, I'll give you a minute here.
Once again, she's controlling the aesthetics
Putin
of the
would be
debate
sitting
very
in
well.
Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men.
In fact, she's
and
doing to
women,
him what he did
but
to
he would have
Hillary,
been
which is
sitting
kind of
in
funny.
Moscow, quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he
He's
is
such
right
an
now.
asshole.
But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear
Oh, dude, I'm hoping
weapons.
for
They
the,
don't ever
like,
talk
the
about
glossy
that. He's got
sweat
nuclear
to
weapons.
return.
Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace
wrecked,
before
dude.
this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to
You're weak
negotiate
and
with
stupid.
Zelensky and Putin. And she
You're
did.
weak and
the war
stupid, and they're
started 3 days
mean,
later.
and they're
That's
poopy
the
heads.
kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden.
God,
in my
he
opinion,
sucks.
I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst
All he
vice
does is
president
mumble and
in the
avoid
history
the
of our country.
question.
But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris,
He is
have you ever
unraveling.
met
No,
Vladimir
he's
Putin? Can you
becoming
clarify
unhinged
tonight?
because she like
Yet again, I
top
said
of the
at
debate.
beginning
She was
of the
like,
debate, you're
the
gonna hear a
crowds are
bunch of
small,
lies
and
coming
ever
from
since
this
he's been
fella.
like, fuck.
And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky,
can't
I now
control
met with him over
himself.
5 times. The reality is, it has
Yeah,
been about
we're Raiders
standing
fans
as
in the
America
chat only because I know
always
nothing
should.
about sports, and
As a leader,
Pyro's a good and
upholding
loyal chatter, so I
international
support his team.
rules and norms. As a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strong men instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
No, he's like a rambling toddler.
In terms of ensuring that
And
there
Kamala's
is
just there
stability
like, yes,
and ensuring
sweetie,
we stand
we know, we
up
take
for
you
our
very
principles
seriously.
and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
Damn.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin.
She's
I do
talking
wanna
about
talk
Chris,
Afghanistan. It came
what's
up
his name?
in the
Kid
first
Rock.
hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
That was
He
actually
got
so
these
good.
countries,
Because,
the
like, if
28
you're not
countries
aware,
at the
one of the
time,
funniest and,
to
like,
pay up.
saddest
He
things
said,
about
"I've
Donald
never
Trump
seen." He's the
is
head
that
of
he
NATO.
is so
He said,
desperate
"I've
for the
never seen."
approval of
For
others
years, we were
that it
paying
regularly
almost
gets him
all
in
of
trouble.
NATO.
One of
We were being
the
ripped off
things
by
brought up in
European
his documents
nations,
case
both
is
on
how he
trade
showed
and on NATO.
these classified
I got them to
documents
pay up
to
by saying
celebrities
one of the
to get
statements you
their
made
approval.
before.
And she just nailed him with that, being like, oh, you are so desperate for others' approval that you sacrifice our own national security. And that is awesome.
Came
If
up
she
in the
ran with
first
that
hour
line
of the
more, she
debate,
might be
and
doing
we witnessed
a bit better
poignant
against him.
moment today on Capitol Hill.
You
honoring
like
the
watching a
soldiers
mom
who
trying to
died
educate her
in the
son?
chaotic
Well, you
withdrawal from
basically are.
Afghanistan. I do want to ask
He
the
is a
Vice
mom
President,
and he is a baby.
Do you
so-
believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision
I hope they
to
turn
pull
this
out of
question on him as
Afghanistan.
well.
4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that
this is the speech I
endless
was
war.
talking about. Let's see if we can
And
get it.
as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty
he starts
in a
looking like
combat
this,
zone in any war zone around
you
the
know
world.
it's going to be over. He's going to be cooked.
But
This
let's
is going to be like
understand how we
national news
got
for the next 3 weeks.
to where we are.
If he
Donald
starts
Trump, when he was
getting, like,
president,
sweaty.
negotiated one of
baby
the
has more
weakest
yeah,
deals
my apologies
you can
to all the
imagine.
baby
He calls
viewers out
himself
there.
a deal maker.
I did not
Even
mean
his
to
national security
equivocate you with
advisor
Donald
said
Trump.
it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
Damn.
The negotiation involved the
Once again,
Taliban
this is-
getting
I think this is good.
5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place
Trump
of
said a
storied
slur yet?
significance for
Dude,
us as
if
Americans.
Trump drops a
place where we
slur-
honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we
It would be
invite and
funny.
receive
I would have to denounce it, but it would be
respected
funny.
world leaders. And
No,
this
that was a great. Okay, I've
former
criticized
president,
her
as
rhetoric
president,
a lot throughout this
invited
debate.
them
The way that she just
to
turned that
Camp
around on
David
him
because he
was
does
actually
not,
really
again,
good.
appreciate the role.
I do think
and
she's like, no, he needs to
responsibility
own up to his
of the
role
president of
in the
the
fucking
United States
Afghanistan shit.
to be
He set us up for
commander-in-chief with a
failure. Of course
level
we
of
failed.
respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has
Gus Johnny
consistently
says he's cooked if he
disparaged and
does that, if he
demeaned
drops a slur.
members of our
Oh no, I think
military,
it'll actually play really well
fallen
with his
soldiers,
base. They'll be like,
and
he's
the
a
work
free
that we
thinker. You
must
can't
do
tell him what to say.
uphold the strength and the
but
respect of the
that-
United States of
it will
America
cook
around
his,
the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It will
President
cook
Trump, your
his
response
electoral
to her
chances.
saying that you
Because
began
once
the
again, they're not trying to
negotiations
get a
with the Taliban.
message to their bases.
If you take a look at that period of
He
time,
says anything about towels, it's over.
the Taliban was killing
God.
our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting
I got
force
involved
within
with the
Afghanistan.
Taliban.
They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved.
This is insane.
And Abdul is the head
You
of
got
the
winning?
Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban.
I think.
And I told Abdul,
think
don't do it anymore.
Harris
you do it
has the
anymore,
best
you're gonna
chance
have
at the moment
problems. And he said,
if
why
she
do
can
you send me a
overcome that
picture of my
electoral
house? I said,
college,
you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul.
drag
And for
down.
18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good.
Harris is performing a 78th year abortion, dude.
We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left
Abdul's a leader.
$85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind.
Hidden
And just to
Wendy's with the
finish,
Taliban.
they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, 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 and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal and, in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how
Wendy's with the
incompetent
Taliban is
she
so
and her boss
stupid.
are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President,
once again,
you recently
she's
said
doing
Vice
such a good
President
job
Harris,
keeping him on the
quote,
back
"I didn't
foot.
know
You
she
can tell he was
black
like,
until a number
whoa, what
of
the
years
fuck?
ago
Don't link this
when
to
she
me.
happened to
But
turn
like,
black,
it is
and now she
linked
wants
to
to be
him
known as
inherently.
black.
No matter how
I
hard
want
he
to ask a
tries
bigger
to,
picture question here
disconnect
tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to
I'm on a
weigh in on the racial
348-month
identity of
abortion
your
on
opponent?
myself
I
whenever
don't,
he
and I don't
talks.
care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less.
He's shouting and
Whatever she
pointing.
wants
Oh
to be
yeah.
is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then
Is he doing this
I
right
read that she
now?
was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Oh, dude,
Vice
he's gonna
President
get
Harris, your thoughts
cooked.
on this?
Let me put my titties
I
away.
think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president.
Call him
who has
racist.
Consistently over the course of his career.
Saigon
attempted to
leaving
use race to
Tehran
divide
is
the American
definitely
people.
A lot more embarrassing.
You know,
than
I
the
do
orange
believe that
festival.
the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what
second for me
separates
to
us, and we don't
understand.
want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us,
will
and
say-
especially by race. And let's remember, how Donald Trump started. He was
I'm gonna let her cook for a second.
He owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young
virulent
black
racist.
and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that. Want better than this.
Yeah, you can actually only be
want
one
someone
race.
who understands, as I do,
But he's not racist.
Country.
But like, if you have one drop,
we see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor.
Do jack shit. Yeah.
We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
He's mad.
This is the most divisive presidency
There's a lot of things you disagree on. Well, good
in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country.
He's
and they come up with things like what she just said.
Bro,
going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including
look at how angry his nussy is,
dude. Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years.
Yeah, that was a lot of words to call him
racist,
ago, but you know what? She
because
did it.
there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger.
Nah,
but
dude.
They're destroying our
His
economy.
nussy is
They
quivering
have no
with
idea
rage.
what
Are
a
you
good
kidding
economy
me?
is.
Look
Their
at it.
Oil policies,
Angry.
every single policy. And
looking into
remember
our
this,
souls.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says.
He hit her with the she is Biden.
The worst inflation
Damn, I hate that we
we've
said that
ever
in sync.
had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden.
Why do they keep calling
and I am
him
certainly
president?
not Donald Trump.
It's a formality.
And what I do
I don't think that they
offer
mean
is
like
a
he's
new
still
generation of leadership for our country.
president.
One who believes
shivering
in
this
what is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about
dark.
what we can do.
Oh, dude, that's actually
instead of
such a good
always
point. Do you think he's
disparaging
orange
the
to hide his
American
face being
people?
bright red?
I believe
That actually
in what we
might
can do
genuinely,
to
if we want to talk about like the aesthetics
strengthen
of
our
Trump,
small businesses,
I
which
think
is
there
why
is
I have a
something
plan.
there.
Let's talk about
How like
our
you
plan
don't see him
and
get that mad
and let's
because
compare
his
the
natural
plans.
skin color is
I
kind of
have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas,
You can
their
tell
hard
that he's
work.
mad when he does that
I have a plan,
stupid fucking smile.
$6,000 for young families for the
Wait,
first year of your
can we
child's
see
life
sweat?
to help you in
Are we
that
getting
most critical
sweaty
stage
Trump?
of your child's development. I have a plan that is about
Bro, I
allowing
want
people
the
to be able to
glistening.
pursue
I want him to look like a
what has
glazed
been
donut.
fleeting in terms of the
I want him
American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment
You see red
assistance for
splotches on the
first-time home
spots
buyers.
you missed?
That's the
You're
kind of
so-
conversation
Yeah, no,
I believe,
literally,
David,
like, his eyes
that
and
people
shit.
really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy. Let's turn back to
Okay, I do think that it's
Let's turn to
good
policy, please.
for her rhetoric that she keeps
defund the
leaning on
police.
the like,
She
please
has a
can we move
plan
on?
to confiscate everybody's
Who's winning?
guns.
Harris
She
is
has a
winning, at least in this
plan to
debate.
allow fracking
We'll see if that
in
translates to the
Pennsylvania
election.
or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is.
Dog, I hate this. I hate that they're fucking like, oh, they're gonna ban fracking. We should not be doing fracking.
I'm sorry, we're gonna move on.
Ugh, that's so annoying. Whatever.
President Trump, this is now your third time running for president.
Is Kamala
you have long
more for
vowed
small
to
biz than
repeal and
business than
replace the
Trump? Oh yeah,
Affordable
of
Care
course.
Act, also known as
Like,
Obamacare. You have failed
Donald
to
Trump's
accomplish that.
tax cuts
you now
notoriously
say you're
benefit
keep
the ultra-wealthy
Obamacare, quote,
over even
unless
small
we can do
businesses.
something much better. Last month,
Small
you said, quote,
small
we're
businesses
working
do
on it.
benefit
so
from his tax
tonight,
cuts, but that's just
9
like
years after you
side,
first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
What happened to
Obamacare
muting the
was
mics?
lousy health
He's
care.
annoying
Always
as fuck.
was. It's not very good today.
Honestly, it's
And
better
what
if they
I said
don't.
that if we come up
The
with
more he
something,
talks,
and
the
we
less
are
people
working
like
on
him.
things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this.
On his
I
left.
inherited
Oh, he is
Obamacare
starting to
because
sweat.
Democrats wouldn't
We're starting
change
to
it.
get
They
some of
wouldn't
that
vote for it.
glisten.
They were unanimous. They wouldn't
starting to get
vote
some of the
change it.
glowing
If they would have
Trump.
done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up.
Wait,
they
Pyro, I
wouldn't
just realized
vote for
you're-
it. I had
he
a
does
choice to make
sound
when I was
like,
president.
who's that
Do
guy
I
from
save
Red
it and
Dead
make
2?
it as good as it
Have a
can
plan.
be? Never going to be great.
Trust the plan,
or
Arthur.
do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot.
Trump
and
has
let it
answered
go
a
away.
question.
I
River in the
decided,
TikTok chat
and I
asks
told
if
my
he has.
people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in this.
Trump has answered a
administration.
question.
We read about the bad ones. We had
about
some
crowd
real
sizes.
bad ones too,
No.
and so do they. They have really bad ones. The
But like
difference is they don't
he
get
does
rid of it. But let me
regularly
just
dodge
explain.
and hand off to
I had a
immigrants and shit.
choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people,
Both
our
parties are a little
population
lost. Yeah, 'cause
less
both parties
money
are
and be
right-wing.
better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still
The
do not have a
nussy is
plan.
glistening.
I have concepts
Damn!
of a plan.
Damn!
I'm not president
Sorry, that
right
was sick.
now. But if
She
we
she
come
straight up
up
was
with
like,
something, I
so
would
yes
only
or no?
change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have.
I have a
to do
concept
that,
of a plan.
and you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years
is
as
such
vice
an easy
president,
one.
private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position.
Let the
on
online
fracking,
assholes respond
and then
to
this
him.
business about taking everyone's guns away.
Talk about
Kamala
healthcare.
and I are both gun owners. We're
Tell
not
people
taking
you want
anybody's
public
guns away,
healthcare.
So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the
Okay,
Affordable
whatever. She
Care
called him a
Act,
liar. I'll take
understand,
it.
just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president,
concept of an
60
idea.
times
What a
he tried
fucking
to get
joke.
rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time.
I actually did
when
not know
I will
that.
never forget
60
the
times.
early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night,
Again, the
walked
onion
onto
is
the Senate
cooking.
floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the
I don't know if I
Affordable
can
Care
read
Act has
that. I
done
don't
is
wanna- don't
eliminate
wanna
the
tease
ability
the
of insurance
PGL.
companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma?
Oh, yeah.
If someone was a breast cancer survivor?
Okay.
If a grandparent had diabetes?
What is her point
And
here? Her
thankfully,
point here is that
as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4
Affordable
years
Care
have
Act has
strengthened
been
the
an
Affordable
extremely
Care Act,
beneficial,
we have allowed for the first time Medicare to
policy
negotiate
with
drug
regard to
prices on
stabilizing
behalf of
healthcare
you,
in
the
America,
American
and she
people.
is right.
Donald Trump said he was going to allow
The
Medicare
Affordable
to
Care Act
negotiate
is an extremely
drug prices. He
popular,
never did. We did.
oh,
and now we have capped the cost
Asher
of insulin
Primrose,
at
thank you for the,
$35 a month.
follow
Since I've been
over on
vice
the purple
president,
site.
we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000
yeah,
a year.
no,
And when I am president,
this is
we
actually
will do
good.
that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care
like her response to
should be
this.
a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be
Hold up.
to strengthen
That's
the
straight
Affordable
up
Care Act,
Sanders.
not get rid of it,
That's a Bernie Sanders drum that she just started beating.
Made a mistake.
I was watching this earlier, but wasn't in here. But Trump's abortion rant.
John McCain fought
his abortion rant was
for 10
so
years.
insane, dude.
But it wasn't only him.
I
the
found
Democrats that kept it going.
But in like
and you know what?
Sure, grandpa kind of way.
We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people.
No, calling healthcare a right as a presidential candidate is one of those things that will like. It's not gonna like win her the election on its own, but that is like literally a message you can like run on, right?
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important
after birth abortions, that's murder, dog.
Voters, and that's climate change.
Like, what do you mean?
With regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that
climate
change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences,
windmills give
who
cancer.
now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up.
She is destroying him.
You ask anybody who has been the victim of
I
what
do
that
agree
means in
that
terms of
her
losing
saying she
their
supports
home,
private
having
for-profit
nowhere to go.
insurance is an issue.
We know that we can
But,
actually
like,
deal
her
with
saying
this
that
issue.
insurance
The young
is-
people
or
of
that,
America
healthcare
care
is a human
deeply
right
about
is
this
really
issue.
big,
And
in my
I am
opinion.
proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going.
Look, I don't think the Democrats have a very strong read on like people's issues with the like Green New Deal programs. That was a fine response, but like I think they need to be very explicit when being like, this is our economic plan. The money comes from here, it goes there. You benefit this way, and a lot less of these like broad scope ideas that they're hoping come from it, if that makes sense.
In Detroit or South Carolina or any other place, what they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse.
This is a flat out lie. Manufacturing has actually become like extremely stable, at least like domestic manufacturing, extremely stable in comparison to Donald Trump's plan.
They get all this money from all of these different countries, and then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did he get? Why did she pay him $3.5 million?
Oh yeah.
This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
Run
We'll
on
be right
like
back with
crooked
closing statements from
administration
both of our
shit.
candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, second half of the debate. I think Kamala is like cooking him. Kamala, I can never say it right. Somebody like got on me in my TikTok comments. Yes, he is in panic mode right now. He is, yeah, the fucking pets lie, dude. What the hell? Why is everything about business with him? This is people's lives. Because he's a sociopath and he's appealing to like a pseudo sociopathy that's like very widespread in America, where it's not, I don't think that it's like genuine like sociopathic beliefs held by people, but it's an apathy that presents itself in a sociopathic way because people are so divorced from each other and so alienated from the communities around them. And he appeals to that by saying, I'm a businessman, I run things like a business, and like people don't realize that when you run a country like a business, you're basically advocating for like widespread mass incarceration of innocent people. because like that is the practical application of that line of thinking, right? In a business, if somebody's not productive for the business, you fire them. You get them out of your system. If they are performing suboptimally, if they are a drain on the system, you get rid of them. Donald Trump, he says, I'm going to run the country like a business, which should translate to I'm going to get rid of anybody that is a drain on the system. And the only way you can do that is widespread and mass incarceration. People don't get that because people don't really understand how businesses are run, because most people, like 85%, 90% of the country are workers. But like it plays well to his audience. It's just a really insane thing to say when you actually understand what he's going on about. He's arguing like he's going against an old man like Biden, but Kamala can actually put together a sentence without attacking her opponent. Exactly. Are you streaming on the Purple platform? Yes, I'm over on the Purple platform. In fact, I prefer support over on the Purple platform, simply because we're trying to grow our audience over there. I'm probably going to play some Warhammer 40K later this week, though. Not all politics. I do gaming. And general nerd discussions. But yeah, his whole like, oh, we need to run this like a business shtick. It's like Republican rhetoric, old as time. I saw a very interesting comment in the TikTok chat. Where'd it go? He's fear-mongering based on extreme lies. Yep, that's classic Trump. I can't find it anymore. We're going back down. Okay, why doesn't anyone say the name of the Purple platform on TikTok? Because theoretically the algorithm can pick that up and suppress you for it. I don't know for sure. Pyro. Yeah, I know nothing about sports, but like you guys can tell me about it. I'm more than happy to listen to stuff about sports. I know that fantasy football just started in my workplace and people are very excited about it. It's been a disgrace that they let Trump talk whenever he wants, but cut off Kamala immediately. I think that's actually kind of working in Harris's favor. Does the algorithm like listen to you? I don't know. It's advice I've been given, and I'm not the most informed on it, so I'll listen to people who know more than me. But I think them just letting him speak. Weird to have Tyrese Gibson news up in the middle of it. What's your Purple platform? It is on the screen right there. But yeah, Trump's hot mic I think is working against him right now in the public view, because I think the more he speaks, the less people actually like him. He's pretty, like, his charisma's kind of been inverted on itself over the last few years, because it was like very appealing when he was the outsider running to overthrow the corrupt politicians, but then he got in and we saw widespread blatant corruption. And then, like, he did nothing about the corruption that he said he was going to fix. If anything, his own son-in-law was one of the most corrupt people in his administration. His own daughter fucking made millions off of the backs of, selling out policy and backroom deals. Like, he became the single most corrupt White House administration in history. Something went on. Anyway, we're getting back to this. I got an alert for something. But I've got too many windows
to
open.
Election Day, we'll go back to the debate and closing statements.
Yeah, no, he's insane. Oh,
live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
Slay Queen.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve,
Johnny Jokester, thank you for the follow over on the purple
respecting our
site.
military and ensuring we have the most
Welcome to the
lethal
chat.
fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
She's really trying to ride the
I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country
they never
by
brought up
investing
golf.
right now
What the
in
fuck
you,
is
the
this
American
debate even
people.
about?
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
At no point did either of them
she just
challenge
started
each other
by
to
saying
sports.
she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation.
She would talk about how
we're a
China's
nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world.
They're laughing because they're like, you dumbasses have to deal with Donald
nation.
Trump.
We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on
Whether you like
with
it or not,
Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire
I think that's
military.
actually a very interesting
She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan.
He gave
what
Wendy's
these
to the Taliban.
people have done to our country, and
but
maybe
yeah, Kamala
toughest of
talks to
all
the
is
people,
allowing
Trump talks to the
millions of
moderators.
people to come into our country. Many of them are
interesting
criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential
He's admitting that
debate
he's violating the
from here
Logan
in
Act.
Philadelphia
Yo,
at the National
that's actually so
Constitution
true.
Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News.
Dude, let me
Good
see.
night.
Can we get a good... Well, that was the debate, fellas. Homies. Ladies, gentlemen, themperors. Oh, dude. That was better than the last one. At no point did I think of hanging myself in the bathroom. So, shout out to Suicide Awareness Month. This debate did not let me down. But no, I think Trump is on someone needs to be keeping an eye on him. That was brutal, dude. Trump just got spanked most of the debate. 0 out of 10 needed golf. Honestly, yeah. I think that debate was like, as far as policy goes, right? It was pretty much what we expected. I don't think anybody with a reasonable level head. One sec, I'm just gonna go ahead and pause. I don't think anybody with like a reasonable level head went into this debate expecting like a mass departure with regard to policy from the Biden admin. But I think that it was definitely better than how should I put this? I went in expecting very little, and she gave me like 2 out of 10 for what I would have wanted out of a candidate, and like, okay, whatever. I will say her stance on Palestine, still not very happy with it. I do appreciate, though, that she at least recognizes the human suffering. But once again, that is not my pain to weaponize, nor to it's not my pain to forgive. And I will defer to people who are directly impacted by that to determine whether or not her statement was appropriate in that regard. I can't believe golf wasn't mentioned. I'm definitely not voting for anyone. Yeah, no, for real, for real. The last debate had me stressing over the future. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? The last debate, it was like this. It was dreadful. It was dreadful. It was like how it made me feel like I was watching the fucking movie Hereditary, where just nothing good. Happiness is a fiction. Happiness is like a figment of my imagination. Nothing good could have come of it. This one, I'm at least like, okay, well, if Harris wins, I have like some confidence. I'm not gonna get like anything that I necessarily want. I will say her saying that healthcare is a right. That was pretty good. That was something I do like, and I think that does bode well, especially when you pair that with her pick of Walz as her VP, who has shown that he is very willing to be aggressive when it comes to implementing progressive policy, even with a minor lead. That does give me a little bit of hope, and maybe we'll have some healthcare reform that is significant by the end of their next term if they get it. I think Kamala won by a landslide as someone who was on the fence going in. Hell yeah, there you go. There we go. There we go. The chat says it. The one guy in the TikTok chat, he says Kamala won. And I'll take that. But I think overall though, right? He probably is changing his diaper as we speak. I think overall debates are never really about like who is making the best point, who's making the best argument. We like to lie to ourselves and say that it is. But like in reality, debates are about establishing an aesthetic that you can then juxtapose with your opponents. Oh, Dwayne, what's up, my brother? I always knew Kamala would win this. Trump can't debate. Exactly. Trump is he's a notoriously easy opponent to beat. That it's kind of shocking. That's why people are like, oh, Democrats want to lose because he's that bad. But debates are about controlling the aesthetics, right? You want to present your aesthetic and you want to damage your opponent's aesthetic. And I think Kamala did a very good job at that during this debate. For the most part, at the very least, she kept herself composed. She made it look like she had everything together. She I think she will very much appeal to those voters who are tired of looking at Biden as this rotting, decaying corpse. And they are tired of looking at Trump as this force of chaos that brings disunity and conflict to the nation. And those voters, I think, will very much be drawn to Kamala after this debate because Trump, especially when juxtaposed against Kamala, he was unhinged for like half of it. I think literally the second that they mentioned that his crowd sizes were small, he just lost it and he didn't know what to do with himself. He was like, oh, no, my crowds are actually huge. And he was just seething for the rest of the goddamn debate. And like he kept going back to the same fucking talking points. He's trying his hardest to do the culture war shit, but you can't really do culture war shit in a presidential debate because like people want to hear about policy and effective change. And even the fucking moderator clocked him on that. She was like, so do you have a plan? And he was like, I have a concept of a plan. So yeah, I think overall Trump crashed out for real. Yeah, no, Trump did crash out. That was like that was an insanely bad debate for him, which I think we all kind of expected. I am curious now though to see debate many lies were told tonight by him. Yeah, no, I am curious to see what the follow-up will be from this. Transgender operations on illegal immigrants in prisons. Yeah, that was such an insane, he said so many insane things that like we just kind of had to let slide because we're watching it live, right? Like he is just put the fries in the bag. Like I'm curious to see if his campaign is going to keep talking about how they want more debates, because that was like a big thing maybe like 3 weeks ago that they were like desperately trying to make an issue. They were saying like, oh, we actually wanted 4 debates, but they only want to do the 1 debate. And I'm curious if he'll keep doing that, because I think as we just saw, he does not hold up well in a debate. Yeah, abortion after 9 months. You mean murder? Like, it was incoherent. It's somebody who spends all their time. He sounded like, as somebody who attended an evangelical college, was surrounded by like a lot of very conservative worldviews for 4 years. He sounded like one of those dudes who spends his entire time on like Republican echo chamber subreddits. He like on Facebook pages. Like, he doesn't get his news from anywhere other than like what his besties are sharing with him in a group chat. And it's kind of weird because you like also have to consider that this man reportedly watches 16 hours of television a day. Wait, what's crazier? JD Vance posted on Twitter that the inquiries were. Wait. Oh, okay. I see. What was the thing about eating cats? Yeah, no, that's just like a lie. That's just like a racist lie that people like came up with to like fucking rag on immigrants. Oh shit. I'm getting an invite. Wants to co-host James the Whiskey. Oh shit. Sorry, James, on TikTok. I would have more than happily had you on. I'm not used to getting invites on my live stream. So sorry, I didn't respond in time. Yeah, but no, the whole thing about eating cats and shit is just a racist lie. Like, it just straight up is. It's not true. And he's like, oh, but I saw someone talking about it. It's like, okay, dog, I see people talking about the flat earth. That doesn't mean it's true. Like, this dude is trying to sell himself as like this like highly intellectual critical thinker and trying to appeal to the like breaking free of the matrix type people, but he fucking believes that the first thing that he reads on Twitter. Surely he doesn't actually believe a lot of what he says, right? Like, it's definitely not a joke. I think he is trying to appeal to a certain demographic with it. Oh shit, lost the chat. Where'd that go? I think he's trying to appeal to a certain demographic. Whether or not it'll work, who knows? I think we won't really see the fruits of his labor until election day. But yeah, he did obliterate him, or she did obliterate him. Look at me. I'm deconstructing the entirety of the concept of gender. Patrick Starr's Rock being smarter than Trump was not. No, that was an insane debate. That was just wild. It was more fun for sure. I'm so happy that Biden dropped out. Honestly, Harry Sasson, I can't say what I'm thinking, but anybody who said that Biden shouldn't have dropped out, you're so wrong. Just shut up. This is so much, at the very least, this is funnier. It's not depressing. If you've ever met those types of people that would vote for Trump, they believe stuff like that. Yeah, I think that there is a lot of, I think that the conservative media sphere has very much crystallized its nature as a bit of an echo chamber by leaning so heavily onto the fake news memery coming out of 2016. So like they are basically locked into either like they either have to like constantly tell people that what they're hearing is false, or admit that they're wrong and they are fake news. And you can't do that when you are also a fascist political. Bro needs to get out of Truth Media. Also, how is Truth Social not a contradictory name? Dude, honestly, I think with his recent, I think he might be getting sued. If he does not win this presidential election, I think the shareholders of Truth Social, or whatever his social media tech company is called, they're gonna sue the shit out of him. I think right now they're holding on that because they want to see if like this gamble will bear fruit. But yeah, one of his I believe it was contractually obligated when he made Truth Social that he could never post on Twitter again. That's why he didn't for the longest time, even after Elon unbanned him. But like now he is posting on it again, and I doubt that contract is expired. I think they're just being lenient with it. X is next, dude. X is I can't even use X anymore. It's literally nothing but like it's like engagement bots, and like all of them are trying to sell porn and then turning around and calling fucking Democrats pedophiles. And it's like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Can't wait to see how Fox News twists this nightmare for their camp. Honestly, I don't know if Fox News is going to be on Trump's side after this debate. Like, that was really bad. And like, we have seen a lot of cracks starting to show in that aforementioned crystallized structure of the conservative media sphere. So I would not be surprised if Fox News doesn't have Donald Trump's back with it. Let's see. Whoa, where'd my chat go? That was insane. Okay, you guys are back. Damn, chill, brother, chill. Fox News is going to spin this so the questions were dialed for... The most I can see Fox News trying to spin it is that they're going to be like, oh, the moderators were unfair. But it's like, dog, you're Fox News. Shut the fuck up about fairness. How has Elon not been sued by the U.S. government? I know Brazil sued him. I think because he owns the part of the U.S. government. I think Elon he's just going to have to go broke the old-fashioned way, and I think he will. Mathematically, he can't pay off the loans that he had to take out to buy Twitter. Like, the interest rate on them alone is more than Twitter made in it, or like the interest rate on like 1 year of those loans is, I believe, more than Twitter makes in like 5. So, and I believe the valuation of the company itself is now down, like, I think it was 25% of what he bought it at. So his shareholders are bleeding money. He's bleeding money. Tesla's going under, just trying to maintain it. It's going to be insane when that... I think at this point, the government's more concerned with trying to make sure that he has not created a bubble that's going to pop and take the economy with it than they are with trying to fucking try and get Twitter back or some shit. Thoughts on Cybertruck? It rusts. It's a truck that rusts in the rain. I think that's all that you really need to say about it. The Whistle and Diesel video where they went through its durability testing was insane. And while I don't think that that's necessarily a good reflection of like a market truck, right? Because they're doing shit to it that you'll never do in real life. It was still, like, compared to the claims that he made about that truck, that video, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to sue them. Is kind of my view on it. Oh yeah, I also live in Seattle, so I've seen tons of Cybertrucks in real life, and they are all just ugly as shit. Conservatives hedge their bets on Trump, and if that's their downfall, it's so poetic. Actually, I want to come back to that in a sec, Dwayne. Also, the moderators were so good on catching blatant lies. That's not being one-sided. It's being honest. Yeah, no, the moderators actually did a pretty good job for once. Like, historically, a lot of the like more liberal outlets have had a problem with Donald Trump where they just he like lies so much it's hard to catch him. But the moderators were like tackling him on it. They even had segments during the ads that were like, oh, Donald Trump lied about this. Donald Trump lied about that. I thought that was really good. I think definitely, hopefully once he's gone, like, I hope that'll be the end of it. Cybertruck, the truck that can't do truck shit. Yeah, exactly. But no, Dwayne in the purple chat said, conservatives hedge their bets on Trump, and if that's their downfall, it's so poetic. I do genuinely believe, I believe full-heartedly that if Donald Trump loses this election, it is going to cause an implosion of the Republican Party. Because almost all of the people who are investing in the Republican Party right now are doing it with the confidence that they can win elections. If Donald Trump loses, then all of those investors are going to be looking elsewhere. They're going to start trying to buy out. They're going to try and be more corrupt with the Democrats. We could potentially see an actual progressive wing emerge. Very scarily, we could also see a much more blatantly fascist wing emerge. It's kind of going to throw stuff in the air, but it will definitely cause a significant shift in the political landscape of America, because you don't lose 2 elections in a row and stay like the person that people have so much confidence in to win an election, tens of millions of dollars. It'll be a scary time for sure. It'll be a time where we need to get to work. It'll be a time where there will be a lot of people that are going to feel directionless and lost when the cult collapses. And like, that's when you kind of need to get in there and be like, hey, it's okay. let's just get back to normal. Let's just try and get back to community. And it's not going to be a time where you want to be fucking dunking on people on TikTok. That's going to make things so much worse. They're making Harris seem like a god. Dude, shut up. They made Harris seem like a god when they let Donald Trump just talk for hours. And like all she did was fucking speak. She honestly came off super like relatively weak to me. When the literal Cheneys come out against you, dude, honestly, I don't like that. I don't like that the Cheneys are supporting Harris. That's something that makes me not want to vote for her. But like, it's like whatever. The alternative is Trump, who, like, let's face it, the Cheneys are also probably, yeah, who cares if he wins? Gonna have to clock in on my leftist educating card. Yeah, exactly. Like, if Donald Trump loses, that's the point where that's gonna be the point where you need to start like educating people. It's not gonna be the time for dunking. It's not gonna be the time for like, haha, we were so right. Like, maybe take like November 6th to do that. But it'll be a time to be like, hey, now let's actually, like, all of this right-wing grievance that you have, all of this faux populism, there's actual answers to these problems. And there's a reason that Donald Trump never delivered on any of his promises, because he never had these answers, because he was not progressive. He was regressive. He was like, hey, these problems exist. Let's just go back to what caused them. Bro, when he started talking about, I didn't lose the court cases, they were thrown out because they had no standing. Like, yeah, no, like, motherfucker, that is called losing. Yeah, like, there's so many things where it's just like, it's like the 9 months abortion. It's like, dog, that's just murder. Like, oh, you can abort a baby after it's born. That's murder. What do you mean? How likely is Trump to win or lose at this point? Oh, never say never. I still think that it could be pretty close. We'll see how this like plays in the polls. I don't want to say the impacts of the presidential debate is pretty widely recorded. I'm not going to try and downplay it. But I still think that we should not rest on our laurels, right? Also Trump never had any intentions of fixing it. That's true. But I think that Democrats need to like still not rest on their laurels with this. There's still a large portion of the population who will view this as just like the mainstream media attacking our sweet innocent baby Donald Trump again. And like at this point, I think the best strategy for the Democrats is to not try and win over those voters, but to try and convince them, is to do the Trump 2016 thing and basically convince them that voting doesn't matter. That's my opinion. And I think that we are kind of seeing that. I think that's part of the like weird campaign that we saw the Harris team run with early on. I figured it's going to be pretty Jover for me if he gets in, and everyone else for that matter. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give into the defeatism, but it will be a very bad day if Donald Trump gets into office. And one thing, they need to get the white women from the age of 30 to 50-year-olds not to vote for Trump. Yeah, no, white women are definitely going to let us down this way. White dudes will always let you, but as a white dude, right? Don't put your faith in me. I will let you down. I'm letting you know that right now. I'm being transparent about that. I am a white dude. The law still applies to me. Hoping his camp's efforts to literally strip their rights will wake up. Yeah, okay. Anyway, that was a fun one. I think I'm going to wind downstream. My voice is getting a little Thunder. I'm currently arguing with my mom about Trump. Oh, dude. Yeah, I think that this is a debate though that will actually, it'll open up a lot of I think it'll open up a lot of people's minds to being changed, but I don't think this debate alone is going to change. Thoughts and prayers, Thunder. Anyway, with all that said, my voice is getting a bit raw. That was 2 hours. That was a great stream. I'm going to go ahead and end the TikTok live first. Thank you guys very much for watching, especially if you stayed here the entire time. We had a lot of viewers tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I would appreciate as well if you could go ahead and drop me a follow down here at the purple site. Just because we are trying to grow our audience over there. We got a few followers, new community members today. Welcome everybody. We'll try and drop a link in the Discord so you can hop on over there. But in the meantime, TikTok, you are coming to an end. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a good night. Bye. Never know how to end the talk stream. Okay, and now we're on the purple chat, so I can say random shit. No, oh yeah, we should set up a Discord command, Wayne. Yeah, I haven't really messed too much with the channel settings over the last few weeks. I've been interviewing for a new job, and if I get that, it means that the schedule's going to change, which is be pretty awesome. Time to eat cats now. Oh man, I'm tweaking. I didn't see night. I don't actually know. Yo, hear that, ladies? I can say the men. Hear that? Cat havers of sorts. My community eats cats. Anyway, oh, dude, I'm so exhausted. That was a long one. Managing 2 chats gets so stressful. That's why sometimes I'll just do like a surprise only stream. Gotta get my transgender operation on my illegal That's actually such a funny thing to read out loud. Oh man. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I enjoyed this stream a lot. I'm hoping that as the election gets closer, we're going to do a few more politics streams. I do enjoy doing politics streams, but they do take a lot to just like sit here and fucking especially with the 2 chats going. Surprisingly, I was honestly more surprised with TikTok that I didn't get as many random like Trump supporters like I have in the past when I stream about politics. But hey, you know, each day is a new day. Here, they give me highlights for my stream now. All right. Anyway, with all that said, the stream is now going to be coming to an end. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it greatly. I think I'm going to upload this VOD to the YouTube and then head off to bed. But we had a great day. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate every one of you. We got a whole bunch of new followers right up there. Where is it? Where is it? There. We got like 5 new followers tonight. 3, I don't know. But we're closer. Our goal of 50, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But yeah, with all that said, good night, and remember, eat your vegetables. Don't do anything that I would do.